My Big Fat Zombie Goldfish by Mo O'Hara. Part 2. My Big Fat Zombie Goldfish Rules the School. Read by Miss Claybaugh. Chapter 5. Return of the Zombie Toddler. As I ran over to the classroom door to see where Pradeep's mom was, Pradeep hid under the computer table. Fair enough, really. Parents coming into school when they are not expected is top of the list of the 5 most embarrassing things that can happen to a kid in elementary school. The list is this. 5. The school nurse finds something in your hair but can't tell what it is, so says out loud to the rest of the class, I'm going to have to take a picture of this one and look it up. Me, 3rd grade. 4. Your mom mixes up your swimsuit with your little sister's, so you have the choice to go to the pool stark naked or wearing a 3-year-old's Dora the Explorer bikini bottoms. Pradeep, last year. 3. You admit in front of the other boys in your class that you think the best Star Wars movie is the one with the cute furry little Ewok creatures. This kid called Ben just before winter break. He never came back to school. 2. Your pet zombie goldfish gets loose in the school. Me, today. And 1. Your mom calls you precious, lovely, or honey in a loud voice in the school hallway just as everyone is coming out of assembly. Pradeep. Also today. I peeked around the door and saw Mrs. Kumar looking into the classroom across the corridor. Kids were giggling as they walked past, and I could hear whispers of, Isn't that Pradeep's mom? Come along, Samina, Mrs. Kumar called, gently pulling Pradeep's little sister by the hand. We'll have to take Pradeep's lunch to the office. Mr. Swanson came into the computer lab, followed by loads of kids, so Pradeep had to get out from under the table. Tom, they're still online, Pradeep says as he sat up at the desk. If we can track which computer in the school they're using, then maybe we can shut the website down. Pradeep's hands tapped away at the keyboard at the speed of light. I got 'em, Pradeep said. They're in the science lab upstairs. That's not fair, I said. That's where Mark told us he was going to be, and he usually lies, so that's the last place I would look. Actually, when you think of it that way, that's pretty clever, said Pradeep. Then we looked at each other. Must have been Sanj's idea, we both said together. I'll head up and recon and see what they're doing in the lab, I said to Pradeep. We'll keep in contact with clicks. There's a button on our walkie-talkies for tapping out Morse code. Pradeep and I haven't actually learned the real Morse code yet, so we do 2 different tunes with the clicks to say how things are going. If everything is fine, we click short, short, long, short, short, long, short, 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 long, to the tune of Jingle Bells because it's a happy song. If it's an emergency, we click long, short, 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 long, long, to the end bit of Ring Around the Rosie, because it seems like a happy song, but it's really about the plague, which was a pretty major emergency. I got another bathroom pass from Mr. Swanson, he must have thought I had serious bladder problems, and headed out into the hall. Just as I reached the staircase, I heard a familiar voice. Swishy little fishy, Sammy chanted as she skipped along the hallway in front of Pradeep's mom. I looked at Sammy. Her eyes stared through the display board on the wall and up my left nostril. The zombie stare. Frankie had hypnotized Sammy again. He must be close by. Ah, Tom, Mrs. Kumar said. The secretary told me that Pradeep would be in one of these classrooms up here doing computer things. Do you know which one? I've brought his lunch. Sammy was holding Pradeep's teddy bear lunchbox, the one he keeps trying to lose or destroy, and his mom keeps finding and fixing. He even let the school bus run over it, but it still didn't break. I bet in 1,000 years' time, archaeologists will find Pradeep's teddy bear lunchbox still intact with his mom's super plastic wrapped samosas inside. Sammy opened the lunchbox's lid just a crack, and there inside, swimming around in his plastic bag, was Frankie. I quickly slammed the lid shut. I can take the lunchbox too, I said, trying to grab it from Sammy. Swishy fishy, she pouted and held on tight to the handle. Okay, maybe Sammy can bring the lunchbox, I said loud enough so that Frankie would hear me and use his hypnotic powers to control Sammy. Just then, I saw a flash of white as someone passed me behind Mrs. Kumar. It was Mark, still in his evil scientist coat. Mark! I shouted, but he'd already run up the stairs. The lunchbox started to shake back and forth in Sammy's hands. Oh, great. Frankie had heard Mark's name and was probably now in full green-eyed revenge mode. Here, let me hold that, Sammy, I said, peeking inside the lid as she let me take it from her. Frankie's eyes were bright green, and his tail whacked hard against the side of the bag. Why are you shaking Pradeep's lunch? Mrs. Kumar asked. That's the way Pradeep likes it, I smiled nervously. Come on, Sammy, let's get this to Pradeep while it's still freshly shook. Sammy looked starry-eyed at me, but followed as I headed for the stairs. I'll bring Sammy back down to the office after we find Pradeep, I called to Mrs. Kumar. As we ran up the stairs, Mark must have headed for the science lab. Sammy, Frankie, and I would trick Mark and Sanj into chasing after us. Then Pradeep would sneak into the lab and wipe the website, stopping Bedlam in its tracks. And all before our first class was over. This was going to be easy. I handed Sammy the lunchbox as I opened the science lab door. As soon as we stepped inside, we knew it was a trap. Mostly because a big mosquito net fell from the ceiling and trapped us. Sammy dropped the lunchbox as she fell and it skidded across the floor. I heard Mark's evil scientist laugh. Mwah ha 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 ha. Ha! Suckers. Chapter 6. The Dastardly Trap. Mark and Sanj stepped out from behind the door. Everything has gone exactly to plan, Sanj clapped with excitement. We lied our way into your pathetic little school. We tricked you into bringing the fish with you this morning. We made it so easy for my little moron brother to find our website. And then we tricked you into following Mark up here. Yeah, suckers, Mark said again. And now you are a prisoner, Sanj paused. Oh, hi, Sammy, he added. Swishy little fishy, Sammy said, wriggling under the net. Yes, exactly. So where is the fish? Sanj said. I stared at Sanj, but said nothing. Moron, where's the fish? Mark grunted and kicked my leg. I won't tell, I said. Just then the lunchbox started crashing around on its own on the floor, steadily bumping towards Mark. I think we found it, said Sanj, reaching down and lifting Frankie's plastic bag out from the lunchbox. Sanj handed the bag to Mark and picked up his laptop. Frankie was flipping his tail wildly back and forth, and his eyes were glowing in the dark green. Mark put on his evil scientist protective goggles and glared at Frankie. Frankie glared back, harder. Then Mark turned to Sanj. So, you got it? He asked, taking off his goggles. Yes, I thank you. That was sufficient, Sanj answered. Cool. Now we got the zombie stare, Mark said, tapping on the little webcam attached to the side of his goggles. Wicked. Now I can do whatever I want with the fish, right? He added, dumping Frankie out of his bag and into a glass beaker that was sitting on top of an unlit Bunsen burner, next to a row of test tubes filled with colored liquid. Don't hurt him! I shouted from under the net, struggling to break free. The moron is right for now, Sun said. Let's see if this plan works first before you dispose of the fish. The computer class will all be looking at their screens, so I'll test Bedlam's zombie fish stare hypnovirus on them. Sanj hit some buttons on his computer, and an image streamed onto the whiteboard in the science lab. He must have set up a secret camera in the computer lab. You could see the back of Mr. Swanson's head, and then all the kids in front of him looking at their computers. Sanj, Pradeep is in there. What will it do to him? Let's see. Sanj smiled an evil smile and hit send. I watched the whiteboard. The millipedes and cockroaches were now using my stomach as a bouncy castle. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew it wouldn't be good. Pradeep was right at the back of the classroom, so I couldn't see his face very well, but all the other kids were sitting at their screens and staring like zombies. Then Pradeep's mom walked into the room and started talking to Mr. Swanson. But as soon as she glanced at a computer screen, she immediately stared at the wall and up Mr. Swanson's left nostril. Mr. Swanson was clearly zombified too. Sammy looked at the image of her mom on the whiteboard. Swishy fishy mommy, she chanted. I think you're right, Sammy, I whispered. Mom? Sanj said, surprised. Oh, well, that will keep her out of the way. Result, Mark said and punched the air. Then he looked confused. That's what it was supposed to do, right, Sanj? Yes, it works perfectly. We can upload the zombie hypnovirus onto any computer, and whoever looks at the screen will instantly be hypnotized into being our zombie fish slave. Then we can program them to do whatever we want. Sanj attempted an evil laugh, but it came out more like a gasping wheeze. Mark did an absolutely flawless evil laugh. You have to give it to him. Sanj might have smarter plans, but Mark's got the evil laugh down. So now can I do what I want with the fish? Mark said. Just then I heard the crash of breaking glass. Frankie had knocked the beaker off the tripod and was surfing in the rush of water across the lab bench. His eyes glowed a perfect shade of revenge green. Stupid moron fish, Mark shouted, and clambered over the bench toward Frankie. Frankie dodged Mark's hands as they tried to flatten him. The wave was rolling in one direction, toward the sink at the end of the bench. No, I shouted. Swishy little fishy! Sammy squealed. Mark ran to the sink and held out his hands to catch the fish. But Frankie leaped into the air, thwacked Mark around the face with his tail, did a perfect somersault, and dived directly down the drain. If there were an Olympic event in the zombie fish diving, he so would have won the gold. More on fish? Mark thumped the bench with his fist. Ow, he said and rubbed his hand. Oh, get over it, Mark. We have bigger fish to fry. Sanj smiled at his own joke, but Mark just looked confused. Bigger fish to fry? Repeated Sanj. Still no reaction. Oh, never mind, he sighed. Now, we need to keep these two here so they don't mess up stage 2 of Bedlam's plan. What's stage 2? Mark and I said at exactly the same time. Turning the whole school into fish stare zombie slaves. Keep up, Sanj said. All the little moron brothers and sisters will do whatever I tell them to. Then, who knows? Maybe I'll just upload the zombie goldfish virus on the internet. Soon there'll be fish stare zombies everywhere. Sanj paused again. Now would be a good time for your evil laugh, Mark. I'm not in the mood, Mark grumped. I want to hurt that fish, and I'm going to search the school until I find him. He stormed off. Whatever. I don't need you anyway. Sanj picked up his laptop. Now I'm going to have a chat with the principal. I'll be back in a second, so don't go anywhere. Sanj attempted an evil laugh, but it just came out wheezy again. He pretended he was clearing his throat, and then followed Mark out of the lab. Sammy was still looking over at the sink. Swishy fishy gone? She mumbled. With Frankie gone, Sammy came out of her trance. She didn't look fish-starey anymore, just kind of sad. Frankie will be okay, Sammy, as long as we find him before Mark does, I said. I'm more worried about Pradeep. What if my best friend was now a zombie fish slave?